Good evening, everyone. My name is Jun Angelo Vilawag, and my partner in this reporting is Nelben Bentasal. Our assigned topic is all about Filipino philosophy, which is the assigned philosopher in this topic is Emerita Esquitos. The title of our term paper is Moral Philosophy and Examinations of the Development of Ideas in Filipino Morality. First, the contents of our report. The overview, introduction, methods, result, discussions, and also we include the concepts of how our discussions goes on and the conclusion. So first, let's have a overview. So in our journey while writing the paper, take us through the animal history, or also known as the history of human evolution, where we discover the origins and development of moral ideology, especially in Filipino context, that there are factors that influence the development of moral ideologies of Filipino people that has left an indelible mark on the cultures and society by contrast in Filipino context. So the objectives of our paper is to explore the roots of Filipino moral ideologies and to contribute to the definitions of Filipino philosophy, and it is intended to delve into philosophical, scientific, and historical research and discussions in a logical argumentations to offer a clear insight to the collective consciousness of Filipino people in morality. Introduction. The, the question, is there Filipino philosophy, has become a subject of inquiry and debate throughout history. Institutions of educations, philosophers, scholars have published book articles or journals that related to these questions and proving that there is a Filipino philosophy that we can call a Filipino philosophy, while some also published that the Filipino philosophy or the thoughts of Filipino was influenced by the Western countries or Western education. So the paper or the title of our term paper drew the attentions to the research questions: when and how do Filipino moral ideas develop? This challenged us to delve into or trace the development of Filipino moral ideals, origin or evolutions of ideologies of men. So, when Emerita Kitos talks about in his book entitled The State of Philosophy in the Philippines, he thought that philosophy must be taught into two different levels, the academic and the unpopular or the grassroots level. So when we say academic, like philosophy was taught in schools. Like when we say the popular or grassroots levels, philosophy must be taught into um, marginalized society, like for example, or in barangay, like the objective or the insight of Emerita Kitos in this quote is that she want she want the, she want to be the philosophy to be taught into the specific communities or society, that to be able to Filipino people to realize that they are philosophizing. So this paper is all about or in relation to the book of Emerita Kitos. But the goal is not to taught the philosophy into the to different level. But the objective or goals of this paper is to contribute to the definitions of Filipino philosophy or to develop the Filipino philosophy. But this paper is in specific to the moral concept or how Filipino moral ideologies develop. So the goal of this paper is to provide a clear and concise insight that the development of thoughts of Filipino people is not only influenced by the Western education, but rather to argue that Filipinos had their own thoughts later before the Philippines was colonized by other countries. So there are factors that for believing that the Filipino philosophy or Filipino thoughts, especially in moral concepts, was influenced by Western countries or Western education after the colonizations happened. So I think that, or we think that it was not solely influenced by the Western education, but there are assumptions for this, that for believing that morality ideals of Filipino or that Filipino philosophy were influenced by Western countries and colonizers. The first factors is that Filipino people before the Spanish and Western colony doesn't know where they know that they are philosophizing. So this is what Emerita Kitos mean when she said that philosophy should be taught into popular or grassroots levels, since there are ancestors Filipinos that they don't even know that they are philosophizing things, like for simply skeptical about the things around them, or for being skeptic about the institutions norms, or skeptics about things that actually happening, or about the practice and that they go through to their respective homes and communities. So the second factor is that there are no records or evidence or artifacts or written works that were preserved, unlike the Western thoughts like Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates, that their works was preserved. And the third factor is that the historical influence of Western philosophy in the mode of pursuing knowledge and education. So, sa katong time nga naka-experience ang Philippines about the colonizations of different countries, dili ma-conclude sa uban nga ang atoang mode of acquiring knowledge and philosophy, or the mode of philosophy in the Philippines, was influence of the Western countries. And that's are the three factors for believing that our mode of thoughts or philosophy in the Philippines was influenced by the Western countries or educations. But for us, in this paper, we didn't support that three factors, but rather we see that factors as for believing that moral ideals or concepts of Filipino or Filipino philosophy was influenced by Western country.
So, good day, sir. I am Nilbin Jean Bentazal from BA Philosophy, Pre-Law. So, in these slides, we are in the methods. So, uncovering profound concept and how these thoughts play a crucial role in Filipino society. So, lilong in Visayan language or bayanihan in Tagalog language is the Filipino cultural ideas of morality concept. So, tampa or tampa-tampa is different from bayanihan since someone will be expecting anything in return when someone in need. So like investing in the community to have insurance. So Ferdinand Tablan article entitled Filipino Virtue Ethics and Meaningful Works discuss the bayanihan concept, which is prevalent in Philippine grassroots communities and influence the adults' characters and traits. So Leonardo and Mercado's book, Element of Filipino Philosophy, examines the concept of moral reason and several facts of Filipino philosophy, such as applied philosophy and cultural characteristics in Mercado, provides a discussion to understand the moral reasoning process, ethical and standards, and cultural influences. So on the moral judgment of Filipino people in this book, he truly believed that the ethical ideas of Filipino are distinct from those other thoughts. So Jethro Ryan essay entitled The Impact and Influences of Western Thoughts on Filipino discuss that the ability of Filipino to solve human problems was influenced by Western thoughts, and their philosophy is seen as resistance to the notion to the philosophy in exclusive Western. So in Ronaldo Agripaldo, in his book entitled Filipino Philosophy, a Western tradition in the Eastern society that historian experience of the Philippines, including the colonizations by Western countries, had a huge impact in development of Filipino philosophy. So there are several books, articles, and journals that shed light on Filipino moral philosophy at the grassroots level of Philippine society. There are certain ideas were practiced in Filipino homes and communities without knowing that they were in the moral, and other ideas differed from traditional moral concept. So the lilong in Bisaya language or bayanihan in Tagalog language is the Filipino cultural ideas of moral concept. So for example of this is kanang if there were an special event gathering sa isa ka community, there were people nga for example mga silingan nga magtinabanga og mga luto og hikay or kung unsa pay mga kinanglon sa isa ka naghimo ana nga event. In that wala sila ga-expect og return regarding sa inana nila nga ginahimo. Ilaha lang ana is the bayanihan kana kasagara ga kahitabo sa kanang mga bukid-bukid nga lugar or kanang mga places nga mga layo na kayo gid sa syudad, like pangkaraan nga way ang ilahang kanang murag nasunod sa ilaha. So when people unite to help individuals and communities in need without expecting anything in return. So the other way of call is tampa or tampa-tampa. When someone involved in the activity of pamamanhikan means asking permission to the bride parents to be married to his boyfriend, and ang kaarawa means birthday was unique social ideas practice of Filipino. Also the dayong, which is belongs to tampa concept, which is Bisaya word, same sa bayanihan. So kani karon uso kay ni karon kaning ginatawag nga dayong. For example nga dayong ani karon kay kanang naay kanang mamatay sa member sa imong family tapos member ka og dayong, dili na ka magunahuna kung unsa pa man akong pangbuhaton nga wala koy katabang. Ang kato ng mga member sa dayong mo na to sila ang mulihok kung unsa pa may angay panglihokon sa imo sa mga minatay, like magluto sila na mag-arrange sa burial, sa mga gastuhonon na kabahin sa mga inana mo nang ginatawag nga dayong or tampa in other words. So this concept of Filipino mind were na-develop nila ang pagtinabangay sa usag-usa kay ang una-huna ang unahuna nga nasugod ani is if mahimo ni sa ko, at least na dili na ko mabalaka kung unsa pa man ang mahitabo, unsa pa man ang mga kinanglanon, kay naa ko'y dayong or tampa nga pwede mo tabang sa ako ang sa kung unsa may posible nga mahitabo. So in Ferdinand Tablan article entitled Filipino ethical and meaningful discuss the Filipino values on how their belief shape their behavior and preference. Although does not clarify the author how this belief relate to morality standards of goodness of character traits, it is mentioned in this article that several standards of values, example of bayanihan, which is prevalent in Philippines, grassroots communities, and influence the adult character traits. It is evident that Filipino moral concept in this grassroots level of Philippines communities plays a crucial role in shaping good character traits of Filipino people. Additionally, it also contributes to shape Filipino identity through contentment in the world. The distinct characteristics and various character of Filipino identity. Moreover, in the book of Leonardo and Mercado, the element of Filipino philosophy.
The article by Mark H. Bernstein and Richard M. Lerner, entitled Human Behavior, discussed that humans had a capacity for growth in physical, mental, and social activity during the pace of human life. It means that humans has the potential for evolutions of their behavior or the development of their behavior. Note that behavior is associated with mental, physical, and social activity. Like for example, what Bernstein and Lerner mean of their article is that, for example, kumadto kog school, ang akong behavior is complex. Like it's either kanang dili ko good or dili ko bad nato ko sa school. Complex ang akong behavior. Like akong behavior sa wala pa ko kaatog school kay kalit ra ko pang litik og dalonggan or kalit ko panagpa nana. But through the pace of human life, kung makasulod na ko sa kanang society, like makasulod ko sa society, na ay possibility or potential na ma-develop ang ako ang behavior. Like kabalo na ko kung unsaon ako pag kanang handle sa ako ang action, like dili na ko mang mitik og dalonggan inana kaka-develop ang ako ang behavior. So therefore, is it possible that the development of Filipino moral philosophy is through, or the development of Filipino moral ideology is through the phase of human life or the growth of their physical or mental and social activity. According to William Puka, yes, in his theory about moral development, discussed that the psychological and physical laws that govern our fundamental natures are pulling humans, offering staunch and unremitting supporting for the human journey towards ideals. So, it means that ang ato ang psychological and physical laws na to, sila ang root nganong naatay ideals about something, ideals na kanang dili na ta mamitik og dalunggan or di ta managpa inana, sila ang root, ang psychological and physical laws according ni William Pica. And especially ang ato ang moral ideals daw kay was influenced by factors like cognitive development and up and historical perspective. When we say cognitive development, naanatay knowledge about something that's around us. Like for example, nga nanatay knowledge nga dili day pwede managpa ug walay rason, dili pwede mamitik. Ina na nga cognitive development nga atong na experience pod. And historical perspective in a way nga ang ato ang kuan moral ideologies was supported by this historical social activity of humans. Like for example, nga sa kagahapon nakasumbag kong tao or nakasumbag ko kang person A, but napatawag ko na adto ko sa police station, then pagkakaron na-realize na ko akong action nga dili dito siya pwede. So therefore nag-formulate ko og kanang ideology sa ako ang mind nga dili na to nako himuon. So that's how historical perspective affects the development of moral concept. So there is a physical, psychological, and behavioral. And as a result of William Puka and his theory that moral ideology, according for him, that evolved into a complex interplay of social, psychological, and cognitive components. And Spencer supported in his theory also that in his evolutionary ethics, according to Spencer or Herbert Spencer, that those who have more biologically complex organisms have more conduct. So, in this quote of Herbert Spencer's, can be relate into human. Dili man po nato pwede ma-relate sa animals kay ang ilahang complexity kay for example sa iro ang ilaha gyud complexity kay kung ano gyud 2 manggukod og tao or mamaak. 3 day pwede mo butang ato 3 manggukod og tao, mamaak, or magpahawid sa kuan sa iyang amo. Unlike humans nga natay capacity nga or natay ability nga mugukod og tao, labay og tao, mamaak or manigbas. So, di ba makita na to ang ato ang complexity of conduct. So, it requires it requires practice for good development of this conduct. So, Charles Darwin, in his evolutionary ethics, discussed that the evolutionary development of morality is come in two parts, the psychological and social. First, in psychological, according for him, moral faculties develop directly from our social instincts such as inclinations to care for our children. Ang psychological, ang ato ang instinct nga pagpadako sa atong mga anak, inana, and to live in a groups na develop diri sa atong psychological. Then sa social, we also have a instinct. Okay, it is a common instinct na gid na siya sa social nga naat kabalo ta mo care sa atong children. But the way nga makig-socialize ta sa mga other human beings pod, naanatay consciousness nga what to do or what not to do or unsay do's and don'ts or pros and cons. Aware ta sa ato ang action, natay consciousness. Since natay consciousness, ga-aim ang kanang kuan, ga-aim ang individual in socializing to have a good relationship. So, since ang individual when socializing each other ga-aim sila good relationship, they must establish a moral ideals or moral concepts through their mind nga dapat dili nako siya balikason or dapat dili na ko siya tudlo-tudloon para ma-maintain na mo ang good relationship. And according pa ni Charles Darwin, this is where human animals reach their high level of intelligence. The result of our methods, the method explore the evolutions of Filipino philosophy through the research questions when and how do Filipino moral ideals develop and its impact on society. Kani ang among research questions mao gini siya ang nag-lead na para ma-research na mo to siya nga mga historical evidence about how how the Filipino moral concepts or ideologies develop. And also, the methods discuss the complex interplay of social, psychological, and cognitive factors in the evolutions of moral ideologies. As Charles Darwin's perspective on evolutionary ethics is mentioned, highlighting the development of moral faculties from social instinct. So, na-mention po nila dito sa methods. And the methods also explore whether the Western influence the thoughts of Filipino philosophy.
So the result. So, as a result, the paper explore the evaluation of Filipino philosophy through the research questions: when and how do Filipino moral ideas develop and its impact on society. It discusses the complex interplay of social, psychological, and cognitive factors in the evolution of moral ideology. Charles Darwin's perspective on evolutionary ethics and mentioned highlighting the development of moral faculties from social instinct. So the method explores the influence of Western thought on Filipino philosophy and the historical experiences that have been shaped it. So the method provides example of moral ideal practice in social culture of Filipino people. It was discussed how Filipino values shape behavior and characterize uh, traits. So it says that how Filipino act on the event nga kung unsa man ang ilahang kinahanglan nga matabang or dili na nga hulat og mandar tungod kay nanay moral or initiative nga pangunahuna nga mo angay nga mobuhat sa unsa pa man ang angay buhaton. So as a result, the paper explores the evolution of Filipino philosophy by the research question when and how. So, furthermore, it explores the influences of Western thoughts on Filipino philosophy and the historical experiences that have shaped it. The sources highlight that Filipino moral ideas were influenced by the Western thought, and it provides example of moral ideal practice in the social culture of Filipino people. It was discussed how Filipino values shape behavior and character traits.
Discussion. When and how does the Filipino moral ideology develop? Argument number 1. Filipino moral ideology is not solely influenced by Western education. It was developed when factors combined such as psychological and physical development when human being reach the highest level of intelligence and instinct associated with consciousness awakening. So, instinct becomes an emergence of moral ideals that shape the capacity of the individuals for empathy, cooperations, and the development of society. Consciousness is the reason we develop a sense of morality. When human being conscious about the surroundings or the people surrounds them, which guides their behaviors and interactions with others. So, by that, humans establish a norms or social norms to ensure harmony and cooperations and turn into moral standards of the society that encompasses values such as honesty, trustworthiness, cooperations, and respect for individual well-being and their rights. So, these moral standards of the society, it must be requires a rules to protect the well-being and the rights of all members in a society. So, consciousness enables us to reflect on our own values and beliefs that critically evaluate social norms and institutions and contribute to the collective decision making process. So, to understand our discussion, we have a concept about our discussion. First, behavior, family, and society. So, note that behavior is associated with physical and psychological. So, sa physical, it refers to the actions or reactions of an individuals like how they act in the environment. So, sa behavior, kung wala pa gid nakipag-socialize ang tao, they have a different or complex behavior in physical especially like kabantay mo anang naasa kanang na mga places nga mga cannibal bitaw inana inana ka complex or naapoy uban nga dili mo kaon og tao like napoy uban nga physical behavior nga mukalit lang panumbag or na uban nga dili mukalit og panumbag na uban mga inana nga mga physical behavior. So this physical behavior needs a cultivation or development. So psychological, it encompasses a wide range of activities including both consciousness and unconsciousness. It means instinct and consciousness. So instinct, dili dili kayo conscious ang man about sa iyang ginahimo. Like for example, kana bitong muhilak ang atong anak or muhilak ang anak sa mother like mo bagting ang ilahang instinct nga mumatay gid ditso kay para patutuyon ang anak or inana mga instinct, mga basic instinct. Then consciousness, about being conscious about individuals around us in a specific environment. Kaning instinct and consciousness na develop na siya if ang atong behavior kay na-cultivate og ayo. Kay kung wala na-cultivate ang atong behavior, dili ta kabalog sa instinct unsaon nato pag nurture sa ato ang mga anak or pagpalangga sa atong anak. Like kung mga anak dahil sa una wala na to na cultivate atong behavior ilabay ra dahil sa sapa di ba inana need for cultivation ang atong behavior gyud and ang consciousness. So therefore when naanatay instinct and consciousness ability, we can able to produce or create a family. Ang family na-create ni siya kay ni spread through na gid ang ato ang mga spacemen or ang ato ang mga kalahi nga human being, animals. Kaya naman tayo instinct unsaon pag nurture sa ato ang child, unsaon pag care para sa ilang para makasurvive. And the consciousness kung unsay sakto ug unsay dili para sa atong anak. So since na natay instinct and consciousness sa family, since family is a group of people, this group of people known as a family, they will be seeking a society to socialize to other family too or other groups of people. Since ang family kay naana sila ability about instinct and consciousness, when socializing to each other, mag-aim din na sila ang each family or each individual o mga good relationship. So therefore, they must establish moral ideologies or concept that will make or that will stable their relationship, or this moral ideologies standard encompasses with values like honesty, trustworthiness, cooperation, and respect for individuals' right. So, ang moral ideologies, makreate lang ni nato if ang human being kay naanay ability about instinct or consciousness. Dili nag-start ang creation sa moral ideology, but kung mangutana ta kung ahagid gikan ang ato ang concept about moral ideologies, ga-start gina siya sa individual self through cultivations of our behavior. So, in conclusion, the paper presents three factors for believing that the moral ideologies of Filipinos were influenced by Western thoughts. The method discussed that human behavior has the capacity to grow during the phase of human life, as what those writers said in their Human Behaviors article title, how to be the complex interplay of social, psychological, and cognitive components. This is supported by Herbert Spencer's theory of evolutionary ethics, that those animals who have more biologically complex organisms have more complex conduct. Like, ang human being daw kay na ay mga complex conduct. So Charles Darwin's offer a discussion in his evolutionary ethics about the evolutionary development of morality in two parts, the psychological and social. The psychological, develop na to ang atuang mga conduct about kabalo na ta mo nurture sa atong child, to care for our children, and social, na natay consciousness na ato ang conduct towards others. So the paper offers philosophical, logical, and historical and scientific research and discussions to the questions to dig deeper into the roots of and origins of the moral ideologies of the Filipino people. So therefore, it will be asking when and how does the Filipino moral ideologies happen, then the answers for that question is from the factors combined of psychological and physical known as the behavior, and these behaviors needs for cultivations towards instinct and consciousness. And if a human being acquires instinct and consciousness, they have the ability to procreate a moral ideologies on a society to maintain good relationships to others individuals. So when humans reach the highest levels of intelligence, so this is when and how does the origins and the development of Filipino moral ideology. And that's all. Thank you. If na pa may clarification, please comment lang sa video o sa comment section para ma-answera na. And that's all. Thank you.